All right, going live in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options, not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the deferred sales trust is an amazing way for you to create and preserve more wealth. We're also streaming on Expert CRE Secrets podcast and YouTube channel as well, and so appreciate all our listeners out there. For those who are just getting to know me for the first time, my name is Brett Swartz, and I will be your host today, and I'm excited to bring on amazing guests. In each and every episode, we're always trying to find the best real estate, financial wealth, and business minds in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. I'm excited about our next guest. She's out of the great state of New York. And she's focused on helping us build businesses that change lives. And this can include mediation, tax trouble, tax strategy, price psychology, exit planning, fractional CFO services, and so much more. We're going to be kind of geeking out a little bit about tax, but actually we're going to be kind of shifting to building businesses using psychology. Please welcome to show with me, Tatiana Tsoir. Tatiana, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Brett. Nice to see you, and great to be here.
Absolutely. And for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Yeah. So I've actually wanted to be a lawyer for many, many years since I was 14. Actually went to law school in a different country where I grew up. And at about 19, I moved to the US. And while I went to college to kind of complete the bachelor's before going to law school, I happened to really I fell in love with accounting. So I happened to fall in love with accounting. I really had great professors and, people who inspired, and fell in love with numbers, fell in love with what numbers can do for someone. I've been running my own business since then, and then added tax to it, then added tax reduction to it. And now we just work with, besides all the little things that we do, my firm deals with helping people grow their businesses, make more money, and build better lives. Because ultimately, I believe that business is personal, because people don't start businesses just for the sake of starting a business. People start businesses so that they can have freedom, time freedom, money freedom, and enjoy life. And so that's really my biggest passion, to help businesses do that. And because 50% of them fail every year, meaning 50% of the ones that get started fail in 5 years. It's my passion to change that statistic.
Amazing. So we're talking with Tatiana Tsoir, and it's spelled Tsoir. You can go to linzaadvisors.com, linzaadvisors.com. Tatiana, let's dive right into the topic at hand, which is building businesses using psychology. So what would you say is the number one secret to doing just that? And talk a little bit about your background and your training, which would, I think, is really interesting here, and a little bit of a different take on what a lot of our podcast guests are coming on talking about.
So it's not just one secret, but the reality is that, and this is something I found over the last 20 years of helping businesses grow, because initially it was just the bookkeeping and accounting, and then tax and everything else. And I've watched businesses grow, shut down, or make it, like really make it big over all of these years. And I started noticing patterns, and I started noticing attitudes, and I started noticing mindsets, and started paying attention to that. So a couple of years ago, I went and started to get my training with Gestalt psychology. Gestalt psychology is really focused around emotions and emotional response, because there is, I don't know if you know this, but there is, our emotions are in the most oldest part of our brain that developed initially, right? But our speech is actually in the prefrontal cortex. And so there's often a problem with connecting how we feel to actually putting that in words and saying, I feel this or this or this or that. And unfortunately, or fortunately, an emotional response, emotional reaction, emotional state influences every day our business decisions, our behavior in business, our behavior in our families, and things like that. My dad built a business. He was a doctor by education many, many years ago, and he was a doctor by education, never worked as a doctor much. He worked in a lab for a few years, but he always thought that a business is like a human body, where if you know kind of what plays the role of liver, what plays the role of heart, what plays the role of the brain, you can figure out and kind of streamline the processes and build a strong business because you know exactly what's happening and what's the flow of everything. And so when he was building a business, and he didn't really, he brought his business home, meaning his stress in the 90s, building a business in the Soviet Union was very interesting, let's put it this way. And so he brought the business home, and it affected everything. It affected me, it affected my sister, it affected our family. And I noticed at some point, probably 10, 12 years ago, that when I was stressing out about money and clients and all of this, I would also bring that home. I would notice how I would lose it quicker with kids. And, the kids were tiny at that point. So they really had no brain power to create a master plan to piss me off. But really, all of those insights really supported my interest in how psychology affects us, how our psyche affects us, how our trauma affects us, our childhood trauma, our upbringing, our patterns, how they affect what we do in business. And the statistic is real. 50% of businesses fail within 5 years. 20% fail in year one. And so I started noticing how my clients would also bring different things home, how they would make decisions by being stressed out, and how those decisions would ultimately backfire sometimes, and sometimes would actually result in something very cool.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. So it sounds like it just recognizing how powerful psychology and mindset has to do with the success of businesses and or the failure. If 50% of businesses are failing in the first 5 years and 20% in the first year, and also connecting how that is the work-life balance and bringing those stresses home. And you have that background with your father. That's intense. You had to try to start a business in the Soviet Union. I couldn't imagine, and no, I don't think anyone really in America could, right, compared to what it could be over there. So, okay, that's really interesting. So, what actions can people take then, right? So, understanding that if you have that awareness, and now you're like, I want to build my business, and I want psychology to be my friend on this. I want my mindset to be my friend. What is the practical steps that you have implemented or helped your clients and implement for their growth of their business?
A couple of things, actually. First and foremost is mindset. I mean, mindset has become this cliche, this hot topic, kind of like AI in the recent years, and everybody's talking about mindset. But the reality is that there's something very specific that I see. And that something is something called a victim mindset. A victim mindset is very prevalent because it often is the initial ignition for somebody to start a business. Not always, but often. And victim mindset means the world is out to get me. This happened to me. And because of that, I can't move forward. Or because of that, I don't know how to make money. Or because of that, I'm stressing out every day. Or because of that, I'm a worse parent that I would want to be. Or fill in the blank. That's a really powerful emotion. This victim mindset is an extremely powerful emotion that I see in many business owners. And the trick for me as an advisor, as an accountant, as a tax reduction specialist, as a strategist, is to note or catch that victim mindset in a potential client. Because typically what happens is clients who have business owners, right, who have victim mindset, what happens to them is they find a professional and they're like, I want to do it. I'm ready to dive in. How much is it going to be? And then nothing. They actually don't take the steps to make stuff happen. But with coaching, with anything out there, it's all driven by you as a CEO of the business. A lot of people think that there's that magic pill. I'm going to pay this coach and I'm going to magically, my business will grow, right? But without your involvement, it actually never will. And then that coach is blamed for lack of success. And so victim mindset is huge. So the first step that you can take as a business owner, if you're watching this, is notice it. Awareness is key. Notice if you are falling into the trap of thinking, oh, I am not responsible for, it's not my fault. Somebody else did something. Or this great example is that I think is this country owes me X, right? We have a lot of this going on. Or somebody owes me X. The government owes me to pay for whatever, or whatever. You can fill in the blank there, right? But the idea here is to catch that and think about something else. That's the quickest.
Got it. So yeah, so catching that victim mindset and understanding that it's going to be detrimental to the growth of your business, the growth of yourself, right? And I think there's a good quote I've heard. I was reading a book. It's like taking 100% responsibility for the outcomes of your life, right? And so that is really, really important to be able to recognize that, take responsibility. So what's the next maybe secret or thought on this to applying this, right? Like once you know and you're aware of those things that are sabotaging yourself on your mindset, what other things can people do to be like, proactive to moving forward to the next positive mindset?
I think a really important key is to be flexible, to be agile. And agile is also a big, cliche in the programming world, and everybody wants to be agile and et cetera, et cetera. But I believe in agile because when you're open-minded, when you're okay with encountering something that is brand new that nobody has ever dealt with, or maybe dealt with, but you haven't dealt with that, is what makes you fragile, right? When we're fragile, any event like COVID-19, like the worldwide pandemic, and like a US inflation, like name any crisis can throw you off your horse. The problem is that when we get prepared for those kinds of events or things, or whatever, we get prepared based on our past experience. And there's this book called Anti-Fragile, which I love, highly recommend to everyone, where you can't get ready for something that you haven't encountered. And the point is not to be ready for something. It's not to anticipate what's coming. The point is to be flexible enough so that you can absorb the shock and come out on the other side, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. Yeah, it really feels like putting yourself through when you go through the stress, right? I think like a sports or an athlete who's training, right? You train much harder during practice, ideally, than you do in the game, because in the game it's second nature, right? But if you're not preparing yourself, right? If you're not going through those challenges with the positive mindset, with making sure that you're catching yourself when you're having a negative mindset, right? Then when those bigger stressors come, like a COVID or like a big market change, then you're going to go by default because you haven't been prepared. Is that a fair summary, Tatiana?
Yeah, I think so. And it's great to not be ready for something specific, but more like, okay, now I've got this curveball. What do I do with it? How can I make the best out of it? How can I, pardon my cliche, make lemonade out of lemons?
Yeah, always looking for the silver lining, right? And it's. I think there's a good quote by Tony Robbins. Like, it's not what's happening to me; it's happening for me, right? And the happening for me part is where the growth becomes, and it could be that small percentage of that silver lining, but that is what's going to make all the difference. And you stack those little wins up, and you become very resilient, no matter what comes at you. Anything else to add to that, Tatiana?
Well, I think I wanted to mention a quick thing, that there is psychology behind everything. And so kind of diving into why you're making that decision or why you're thinking this way is important. I do a lot of price psychology projects where I help businesses develop their pricing strategy, whether it's a rate for an employee or technician or whatever, or compensation for, let's say, doctors in their practice or whatever. And what I see is a lot of that psychology with decision making, because all we do in business is relationships, if you think about it. Relationships with partners, relationships with employees, relationships with our business and our families while we're running a business, and all of that. So that's just what I wanted to add. I wasn't sure how long we're
Yeah.
going total, but yeah, I think it's important.
Yeah. That is important. That's good. By the way, you can learn more about Tatiana Tsoir by going to linzaadvisors.com. That's linzaadvisors.com. We did promise we're gonna geek out with some taxes here, right? And so building businesses, reducing taxes, and just tax strategy. Tatiana, you do M&A, you do real estate, you're doing different things, right, with your clients. And so what we found is some of the biggest challenges is having freedom and flexibility to build a life or build a business while still remaining tax deferred. It can be challenging, right? Like 1031 exchanges can be challenging. They don't work for cryptocurrency. They don't work for business sales. But we have a unique strategy. But before we go and talk about that a little bit more, I'm curious, like, what do you feel is the biggest frustration when it comes to your clients when they want to exit, but they have this huge tax, especially being in New York, right? New York is crushes people with taxes. Talk to us through how you help people have a great mindset for that, and or just have some really good strategies to work through to see if it can solve their challenges.
Yeah. I mean, my clients aren't really frustrated, if I'm honest, because they have me to be frustrated for them and to really pull the strategies in and get people like you involved in certain cases. People, get certain strategies involved, like a DST in business sales, deferred sales trust. If you're listening to this and unfamiliar with the terminology, but deferred sales trust is huge for us in terms of M&A work. In terms of ongoing real estate investments, as you know, cost segregation, test 1031 exchanges, and et cetera, are huge for investment portfolios. We certainly support clients with that. And typically when the first time clients approach us, it's more like, oh, I feel like I've been paying a lot of tax. I feel like I need more support because my business is already developing my investment portfolio. We definitely work with commercial real estate clients who have huge investment portfolios. And the frustration there is I don't think I have the professional who actually understands and can drive the strategy around the entire business, because you can get a coach who will tell you how to run things operationally. You can get somebody who's going to run your accounting. But how do you bring on somebody like me who can look at everything and create a strategy and then pull other people in to support you, seeing the big picture and the nitty gritty at the same time, if that makes sense?
It does, yeah. We call it building a capital gains tax exit plan and kind of building the dream team around and solving the problem. It's like a Rubik's cube, and sometimes we can solve that cube ourselves. Sometimes we can't, and sometimes we need to bring in multiple professionals to help execute on that. And so, yeah, I love that you see it and you approach it in that approach, right? That mindset, right, for solving the problem. And sometimes it's the roadblock that we have. It's not trying to be the how, but hiring the who, right? And
Yeah.
so that's good. I like that your clients are counting on you to be that who that they can hire to find the great solution for their exits. So we're running out of time. Are you ready for the lightning round?
Sure. I don't know what it is, but sure.
All right. Knowing what you know now, if you could go back to your 20-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget make sure to tell yourself to do?
I would say get a business advisor slash coach involved early. I thought I knew everything, but I didn't, and I don't still. And I still ask for support of other professionals like myself, but in other people, to make sure that I'm not hallucinating, to make sure that I'm understanding it correctly, to make sure that I'm making the right decision. It's always when I get reflection off of somebody else, that I could actually make a great decision. And that's what really supported me over the last 5 years. But I wish I'd known that 20 years ago.
I love that. There's definitely wisdom in many advisors and coaches. And so, next question: what's the number one book you've recommended or to give to the most in the past year?
I always recommend this book called The Road Less Stupid, but this year I would recommend Anti-Fragile. It's a really interesting book.
Awesome, great. Question number 3: what are you most curious about?
I'm always curious about things that I don't know. It scares me also at the same time, but it also keeps me engaged and not bored, because I really get bored quickly.
What is the one thing you're most curious about right now that you don't know?
I don't know how to really, you know what? I know it's a lightning round, so I'm supposed to reply fast, but what do I not know now? Hmm. I don't know. It's hard
It
to
could be
say.
AI, it could be crypto, it could
Oh,
be,
I have I have opinions about all of that, but I mean, I guess I don't know. I guess I don't know how negatively AI will affect our lives. I understand the positive side of things, but I want to see like my imagination goes into dark when I think about AI and what it can do and things like that. So I'm curious about that as I'm trying to prepare and just kind of protect myself from getting a curveball, if you will.
I think that's prudent. Yeah, that sounds good. Second to last question. Number one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by.
One of my favorite quotes is, and I don't know who said it, but is called Hope. HOPE. Help one person every day. I believe in doing good without getting credit for it. I believe in helping somebody uh, one on one as opposed to making big, bold statements that I've helped somebody or I donated X amount of money. I believe in that. And so hope is really the thing that I live by.
I absolutely love it. That's a great one. I love that hope. Yeah. Help one person every day. Last question. After all your success, Tatiana, helping all the people you've helped, how do you best stay centered in your values and how do you stay challenged to charge forward to reach even higher heights?
I remind myself of these values. You know, when I was leaving, I worked for a CPA firm for about 2 years, 2.5, to get some tax experience in business. And when I was leaving, my mentor, who knew that I was starting my own firm, a tax and accounting firm. I had an accounting firm before that, but adding tax, he said, integrity is everything. If you don't have integrity, you don't have anything as a professional, as a human. And so reminding myself of that when clients challenge me to break the law. I mean, my clients don't, but prospective clients sometimes, or just people say, oh, how aggressive are you? Well, wait a second. We don't break the law. We follow the law and often can get you a better tax result because we utilize the law, right? Tax law. That's what you guys do as well. And so I definitely um, remind myself of that every time I have a dilemma of should I be doing this? Is this right? I remind myself of those values, and I think it's important to do that just remind yourself of who you are, because being better every day is my goal.
Beautiful. Tatiana, Tsoir, I want to thank you for being on the show, sharing your wisdom with us, sharing some deep wisdom in psychology, helping us to improve our mindsets and be aware of mindsets that aren't going to bring us to where we want to be, to build businesses using psychology, and also talking a little bit about tax strategy as well. For our listeners who want to get, first of all, I want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, help a lot of people. There's a lot of people in New York who need your services and need help, right? Because there's a lot of tax and a lot of people that are transferring wealth and such. And so New Jersey, New York, Illinois, California, these are some of the biggest ones. So take action now. Tatiana, for our listeners who want to get in touch with you, what's the best place for them to find you?
You know, my firm website is linzaadvisors.com, but my personal brand and book and everything else are at my first name, last name, so tatianatsoir.com. And you can find me there. You can reach out through LinkedIn or Instagram, and let's talk.
Amazing. Thank you, Tatiana. I also want to thank our listeners for listening to an episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast. As always, we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy such as the deferred sales trust or getting with Tatiana Tsoir to map out an exit plan and look at all of your options, especially if you're in New York, right? Don't get caught not having a plan and then having to pay 20, 30, 40, 50, 60% of your proceeds in tax. It's crushing for business owners and real estate owners. Have a plan, take action, and also make sure your psychology is right? What a great reminder that Tatiana gave us today, being aware of the psychology that we have and our mindset for building businesses and improving our lives. We appreciate everyone listening out there. Please rate, review, subscribe. Please share this with someone it could be an inspiration to, and we will talk to everyone